Welcome to a Thursday morning, 9:01, donuts for breakfast. And we are here this morning with our fantastic team, not our entire team, but actually our entire team is here today. And we have a couple of apprentices with us. Shout out, hello, apprentices.
Hello.
Nice. I don't know if you
No
heard that.
shouting involved.
There was
good.
no shouting.
It was
But
good,
there was a
That
subdued
was good.
hello.
No, that was
Trevor,
good.
you got everybody up at 7 a.m. to be here by 9 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You kidding me? These kids are probably half asleep at this point.
We know how that feels. So
And
anyway,
yeah, I know I am.
we are here for Donuts for Breakfast, and this is week 2 of our generational wealth
Video podcast.
And it occurred to me to, I appreciate what we're doing, but I wasn't sure exactly what it meant. So I Googled it. What does generational wealth mean?
According to credit.com, what is the meaning of generational wealth? Generational wealth is assets that parents pass down to their children and, ideally, their children's children.
Yeah, so it's old money.
Well, not if you're creating it now.
Putting it another way. Yeah, but yeah, so that's setting up now
Right.
for the future. But in other ways, it's that old money of like getting rich older in older times, and then your
sustaining
descendants.
of assets over time, passing down and sustaining of assets over time.
Very
Better.
Thank you, Professor.
And
That
it
was
also
good.
says substantial. So what does substantial mean?
An estate of trust fund investments.
Conservatorship, guardianship.
Is there a minimum amount to that thing?
No, but it's as important as what we do emotionally and spiritually to our families to help them sustain why it's important to have that.
That part, that is just as important about the generational wealth hand down as the actual assets itself, is how to maintain them, how to think smartly about them, how to have appropriate emotional connections to those assets. And that I think kind of falls into the slang or colloquialism of old money versus new money. Is old money knows how to manage that money, not just literally, but also emotionally and intellectually. And new money is that, over the top, spend because you have it, like don't know how to act because you've suddenly come into that lack of emotional and intellectual bandwidth to be wealthy. I think that's part of the process.
Excellently put.
So it's like thinking about like if you were just given $1 million or 2 million or 10 million or $1 billion, what would you do with it?
What happens to lotto people sometimes?
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say, a lot of
times.
people, most people, they ruin their lives because they don't know how to handle that amount. Of
Not
money
always,
all
but
at
some.
once.
But the other thing is, when you are blessed with good fortune, good luck, good fate, karma, whatever you want to call it, the wisdom that needs to arrive with it is the Solomonic wisdom of Solomon, who scripturally helped try to describe to people how to maintain that. What he said was, I have more than any other person in the history of time. And what I have found out is none of it means anything. It's all vanity of vanities and a chase after the wind, repeated endlessly through great literature, again, through Shakespeare and others, and Dickens. But this issue is something I try to help people with who are extremely wealthy and finding themselves now, because of COVID-19, really in struggle because they've amassed huge fortunes and there's poverty of an incredible nature right in front of them. And you cannot look the other way. As Dr. King said, if you look the other way, you're already dead. You'll go on to the end of your days never knowing who you might have become, what you could have done, what you might have accomplished if you look the other way when you're indifferent to the suffering around you. So the thing is that our conversation has to be about is how to help a family, how to help your neighbors know what true wealth is. How do we know what wealth is? Well, if you go to Dickens, Dickens was described as a man who was as solitary as an oyster in his pain. He had everything. He'd amassed a huge fortune, but he was miserable, angry, bitter, toxic, and vicious to the charities. Then he had an awakening experience that Dickens was excellent at predicting. He was a wise person. And what's great for us and to have this discussion is that I think I spend more time. This is going to sound ironic, but sometimes I spend more time with wealthy people trying to help them adjust than I do with folks who are homeless, who I can help if I can get to the wealthy and go, there's a need here. Make sense?
Right.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Mhm.
Because I'm old now, I'm in my 70s, and I've watched it over the years, and I love you guys. I mean, you're important to me because you're with these young interns here. You're teachers. I mean, we're all teachers in our own way. We're teachers of neighborhood and neighbor good.
Well, and I think that was one of the reasons why we got together as a team today. And there's 3 different generations.
Yeah.
It's someone help me with the generations.
Well, it's
I
like
still don't know which one.
mine, your guys is over there in the middle, and Mike
Boomer.
over there.
Yeah, they have
Boomer
names,
did.
right?
Did.
Boomer,
Boomer.
millennial.
Millennial. No, we're not millennials. Are we?
We are millennials. We're elder millennials.
Oh, I'm an elder. All right.
He's, millennial, zennial,
You can put me in whatever. It's,
Gen Z, millennial,
Would you
zennial,
say to yesterday Zillennial?
Zennial.
Zillennial.
zennial.
Yeah,
You're at the back end of the millennials, and at the front end,
Yeah.
Generation Z.
And then what about our apprentices that are hanging out watching right now?
Those are
You guys
they're
gotta be Gen Z.
all
right?
Gen Z.
Gen Zs, yeah.
Firmly Gen Z.
Kennedy is Gen
So
Z,
from-
Zennial, or yeah, whatever.
Zennial.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like all these
Yeah.
fun buzzwords you got to keep track of.
From
Man.
Boomer to
To Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Gen Z,
Cool.
and talking about generational wealth, and having it and not having it, and I think today is part of also that's just kind of dispelling the myths around it, or just getting around the same page. And why we're here.
Clarification.
Clarification, right?
Yeah. What it looks like, the differences on a community level, what generational wealth
Excellent.
looks like in Marin.
That's a conversation that needs to happen as well.
Yeah.
What is it to us that the community thrive around us? Because if this is constantly what I tell people, if we don't empower community through wealth and privilege
Mm-hmm.
and circumstances like that, it can be insufferably hard on us when it comes back in the form of violence out of resentments.
Valid.
Violence out of resentments, like violence towards the rich, violence
Yes.
towards the wealth.
Well, I mean, we've had revolutions over that. This is why this is
course.
important. We've
Yeah.
had huge revolutions. There's the French Revolution, when they were walking people, Christopher, to the guillotine. Robespierre, who was the narcissistic kind of leader, was pointing out people that needed to be decapitated, and sent off to. And finally, when they found out he was duplicitous and that he was a phony and he was disingenuous,
Went right for him too.
they took him. The crowd, the mob took him. And
Yeah.
so what he said was, the crowd loves me. I'm their father. No child ever wants the death of their father. And 5 minutes later, and so what we know is that jealousy is a harsh thing to deal with, and it's important for us to teach this to our financial people. Like Jason last week, this guy's a genius. I want that guy in every rich person's face going, I'm the son of an immigrant and my father works hard. I love you and I care about you. I care about our country, but you need to listen to my wisdom. And he's young. He's like wise young. I'm glad that in what I do, get a chance to meet that guy. His spirit was awesome. I mean, just great for me.
So then, would it be a conversation on sharing the wealth or managing the wealth for future generations?
Both.
Okay.
And kind of one
Thank
of the
you,
things we
Professor.
talked about was tying in what we do in that regard
Right.
of giving people the opportunity to pursue their passion as a career and giving them a career option.
Right.
Starting that path, and I was
Right.
like, oh, that's kind of brilliant. I didn't think about that aspect.
So one of the more touchy subjects of generational wealth as it pertains to the